Welcome back to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really happy to have with me once again Ian Klassen. Ian adds 20 years of experience in business management, public relations, government affairs, entrepreneurialism to the companies that he manages in the junior exploration sector. And he has a very stellar academic background and also has served in government in Canada. And a really great guy. I've met him several times now on my trips to Vancouver, and I'm really pleased to have him with me today. He's here today. We did have him on once before to talk about GMV Minerals, another company that he's very much involved in leading. It's a company that I like. It's also a sponsor to this show. It's a company that I own. It's also a recommendation in my newsletter. But today we want to talk to him about Grande Portage, a sponsor of this show, and also one that I own and is in a recommendation in my newsletter. So I'm really pleased to have Ian with me. Before I say hello to Ian, I should tell you that the stock trades in Toronto under the symbol GPG. You can buy it in the U.S., as I have, under the symbol GPTRF. The last count that I have, 78.8 million shares outstanding, trading somewhere in the 49 to 50 cent Canadian range, the last I looked, earlier today anyway. Giving it a market cap of around $38 or $39 million in Canadian currency. Well, thanks for joining me, Ian.
Hi, Jay. Thanks very much. My pleasure to join you and your listeners. Listening to your opening, you mentioned 20 years. I guess nothing really stops the clock because it's closer to 30 years now I've been in this business, and I've known you for about 10, so nice to be here.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll make a note of that. But you have a very youthful picture, so I took the 20 years to be accurate. But that's probably just a dated bio, perhaps. We'll have to update it here when we have you on again. In any event, you have a very exciting story here at Grande Portage, the Herbert project in Alaska, and you're starting out here with 606,000 ounces, grading just a little over 10 grams per ton, which is really quite stellar. Tell us about the project at Grande Portage. Give our listeners an introduction to this story, which they haven't heard before.
You bet. We're thrilled to be working in Alaska. As you correctly point out, we have 606,500 indicated ounces in a 43-101 at just over 10 grams, but we also have 251,700 in the same 43-101 in the inferred category, and that's just over 14 grams.
Wow.
We were introduced to this property, which is in the historic Juneau Gold Belt of southeast Alaska. We're sort of wedged almost halfway directly between the Kensington mine, which is operated by Couer, some of your listeners may know, and the historic Treadwell and AJ mines to the south. Those are in and around the Juneau area, and in their day were two of the largest gold mines in the world. We started out with a 35% interest with Dr. Tom Patton and Katera. When you could have a pipeline of companies as a junior. This was the last one that they hung on to. And so we negotiated an earn-in where all the money went to the ground, went to the project, not to the company. And so we drilled it in 2010, 11, and 12. Ended up in that period of time filing two 43-101 resource calculations. And in 2013, which really was our first one, we had about 182,000 ounces of gold at just shy of 7 grams. Increased it back in 2017-18 when we re-drilled after going through a bit of a quiet period like a lot of juniors did. But we increased the asset both in terms of size and grade, just shy of 270,000 ounces at over 7.25 grams, and then an inferred calculation of just over 82,000 at over 6. In 2018, we drilled again and had a considerable success on what we're calling the goat vein, which was very rich in a number of intercepts, not only from surface, but as well as up to 200, 225 meters deep, so that we have the resource calculation that we do today.
Yeah, and but as I can see, looking at some of your materials on your website, you've really got a lot to shoot at yet. This is a vein system, and as I see, there seems to be quite a few of these veins, I don't know if they're all gold hosted or not, but they seem to be running more or less parallel to one another. How many veins have you tapped into? And give us some idea of what the upside is in terms of targets yet to be explored and drilled into.
Sure. This is a mesothermal vein system, and they pinch and swell, but when they're quartz bearing, very often we're finding them, if not always, mineralized. The veins all lie in a east-west trajectory between two northwest striking tectonic faults. So the system is easily identified. The veins themselves express at surface. Three of them express for up to about a kilometer at length at surface. And of course, they're known to go very deep, 3,000 feet or more. So our geologists at this point feel that we're probably have only tested about 30% of the property. Our resource is only partially on 3 of the primary veins that we have drilled to date. And we've never really gone deep on this property. The budget just hasn't been there. We're still defining the tips on the resource from a lateral standpoint. But we certainly have identified approximately 6 of these veins that continue to look very good to us, continue to assay very well. And in 2018, we just expanded that prospectivity by doing what's called a LiDAR survey over our property holdings. And that unveiled, up to 16 new parallel structures to the south, which are all stacked just the same way, 2 to 225 meters apart, steeply dipping to the north. And in fact, this summer we're putting our first drills into one of those veins and anxiously awaiting the assays back on that.
Mm-hmm. So they're about 200, did I hear you say 200 meters or so apart, these veins?
That's right. Yeah, about 2 to 225, depending upon where you're standing on the property.
And they come right up to surface, or how close to surface?
Yeah, no, they express right at surface. A little while ago, we did what's called a channel sample across some exposed quartz at the surface, and we ended up with just bonanza grade 8.5 ounces over 1.12 meters, and not too far from that, about 3.5 ounces over a meter. So yeah, pretty spectacular right at surface.
So you would think that, I know it's too early to think about mining yet. You have a lot of drilling to do, and you're not miners, you're explorationists, but do you have any sense? Obviously if it comes right up to surface, there would be some surface mining would be the idea, right?
Yeah, that's right. The main vein, the goat vein, the deep trench vein, those are 3 primary veins that we've spent a lot of time and effort on. They all express right at surface. We would likely start, this would be an underground mining operation. It's rich enough to be so. We'd likely start on the goat vein, do about 1,000-foot decline, it would be stope mining, likely shrinkage method to start with, where we had a high measure of control. And then later, after more knowledge is developed, we would include some long-line stopes to be developed on the property as well.
From what you know at this stage, are all of these, the mineralization of these various veins, the same geological event? Is it the same system that, and as you mentioned, mesothermal deposits generally run deep? Is there some concept by your geologists that these veins could somewhere join at depth? Yeah,
it's probably a little bit early to know. Until we go deep, we're not going to be able to figure that puzzle out. Although it's worth pointing out that there's hundreds of rich gold splays that come off of these primary veins and lie between, and we know a number of them are mineralized. So when underground mining does occur, those will be captured. This year we had some really pleasant surprises out of drilling from the T pad going south, which is our northernmost pad. It was there to intercept this goat vein and the main vein, but we intercepted in both of the first 2 holes some really nice quartz that ended up with VG in it, and was in fact what we've just recently disclosed in our first assay results that came back. But yeah, it was nice to have 2.7 meters of about 53 grams gold when we didn't expect to see it there. So there could well be some areas to capture interest between the primary veins.
Interesting. Now, how much drilling have you done so far? How much has yet to be done, and how much have you reported and yet to be reported?
Yeah,
this
good
summer.
Questions. We're running 2 drill rigs. We'll have the one drill rig conclude on its final hole some point next week, and probably the week after that, the other rig will conclude. So we're looking to do 21, 22 holes for the entire work program that we're involved in right now. We've only received 4 holes back, and they've been disclosed. So we've got lots of assays to come back from the lab. It's been a pretty busy period for the labs, but also the COVID pandemic and staffing has certainly set them behind the 8 ball. So things are slower than they have been before. But what we like about what we've seen so far this year is we stepped out, which we tend to do. This is all step out drilling as we're anxious to find the extent and the tips on the deposit, as I put it. But on these first holes, they came from platform T, our northernmost, as I mentioned, and pad U. And so what we've done is we've been able to demonstrate mineralized rock from the assay lab 170 meters to the east on the goat vein. That's further east, I should say, 170 meters than we've ever drilled before. Similarly, 100 meters extension on the deep trench vein. And in the main vein, the center of our deposit, we've gone 200 meters deeper than ever before, and all 3 of these have ended up returning mineralized gold in the veins. So, this is a quick way to add tons and ounces to a deposit, and we really like what we're seeing even after just 4 holes.
Well, you're liking in terms of continuity, I guess, at this stage anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The continuity of
very
mineralization.
Reliable and predictable. Yep.
Any metallurgical studies done yet on this material? It sounds like it's mostly quartz. It doesn't sound like it's something that'd be problematic generally, but have you done any work on that yet?
Yeah, we've done a number of bottle roll tests on the 3 primary veins to test with cyanide to see if there's any refractory mineralization. There's none. Gravity tests, which is your cheapest recovery, we're getting mid-90s recoveries in gold, high 70s in silver. So we're really pleased with what we're seeing on the metallurgical side.
And some of the other issues that we always have to check off the boxes on, infrastructure, native issues.
From an infrastructural standpoint, we're located 6 minutes by air from the Juneau airport. We're close to tidewater, power, skilled workforce familiar with mining. So from a geographic standpoint, we're really quite lucky to have something as close to urban Alaska as you can pretty much get. No native issues to speak of, not like our fellows, compatriots, if you will, exploring the province of British Columbia, where it's often an issue to resolve. But no, we have no issues on that regard in southeast Alaska.
Well, all I can say is you've got a very low market cap compared to a lot of companies these days that have done well with their exploration. It seems like this is an opportunity for people, given the fact that you're not overpriced yet. I would say, with lots of upside. How's your funding situation at this stage? I guess you have enough to take you through this drill season, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are a junior. We're competing with all the other juniors out there. The difference between our portfolio and perhaps some others is, we come to the table with 860,000 ounces already in a 43-101 and just looking to grow that this year. From a funding standpoint, we raised a couple of $1 million early in 2020, and then Eric Sprott, who is probably easily one of the most renowned commodity gold investors in the world, asked us to consider a $3 million placement, which we very happily did in the end of June. He's our single largest individual shareholder now. He is the reason we were able to put a second drill to work on the property this summer. So we will end the season with somewhere in the vicinity of $2.3 million in the treasury, which is pretty enviable, knowing that next year we can come out of the gate and funding requirements are not going to be ever present like they have been historically.
Yeah, well, it's a good feeling, a great feeling, and it's, of course it's a great time for our sector, Ian, because companies are able to raise money and they're putting geological theories to the test, and when they're successful, it's just a lot of fun. That's for sure, and it looks like we should have a lot of fun keeping our eyes on what's coming. You'll have a lot of information, a lot of drill results coming in the next, several weeks, I suppose.
Yeah, the way the labs are running, Jay, we're probably looking at news flow right into the early new year, given the fact we still have both rigs turning right now.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess you'll set up a new exploration program early next year, probably based on the results this year.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll digest the results when we get them all in and formulate our plan for 2021. Apply for permits, and if we connect enough dots, we'll likely commission an update to our 43-101 so that we keep interested stakeholders and shareholders apprised of our growth.
Getting over the 1 million ounces there, possibly, I would think. Hopefully.
Well, exactly.
So,
exactly. That's this year's mandate.
Okay. Well, it looks like you're on the right track. All right. Well, I want to thank you very much. Any last word, or have we covered pretty much what we need to from an introductory point of view today?
No, in a few minutes, I think we were pretty thorough. I would just, if you like gold in the United States in a safe jurisdiction with lots of upside from a drilling standpoint, please keep an eye on us. I think we've got what it takes to surprise a few people. Yeah,
and your website, of course. What is it? I should have had it jotted down here.
Yeah, GrandePortage.com.
Okay.
And there's, if anyone's interested in signing up for future news release dissemination or keep an eye on us that way, we'd be happy to take your details and put you on our list.
Certainly a recommendation for me to do that, and also a recommendation that you follow them through my newsletter, because it's one of my favorites. So thank you so much, Ian, for being with us today, and we'll look to keep up with your story going forward.
Thank you, Jay.